You can live a life full of love and light if you just let the Spirit guide you. It's the remedy where you'll find peace, but you must let the Spirit guide you.
Who made y'all priests?
What up, world? This is Fafore.
What's going on, good people? This is Oseun. Welcome back to the Who Made Y'all Priests podcast, where we talk about our spiritual journeys, our everyday life experiences, and the issues of the times from the perspective of two people who just happen to be priests. Fafore, what's going on, man?
Man, blessed and highly favored. How you feeling on this beautiful day?
I'm blessed and highly favored as well, man. I'm blessed and highly favored. I've been chosen by the one.
I love that. I love that for you. So look, peep this. I got something I've been wanting to run past you, but I was like, I'm gonna wait, for the show so we could talk about it and it be organic, So the other day I was, in the bathroom handling my business. That's the time where I really get on social media. Other than that, I don't really be on social media like that. So, I'm sitting there, I'm scrolling through, right? And I don't know what I hit. Somehow I get to some page, this girl's page, this woman's page, I should say. And she is talking about like do's and don'ts when it comes to like the Ifa tradition, right? So I check out a couple posts. So I scroll down a little bit, and this post, captured my attention. And she's going in like on like, you really got to know what priest you're dealing with, and you got to ask these questions and this, that, or the other. And then she was kind of going in on priest a little bit. Now, according to her page, she's an Ianifa, so she's a priest.
Mm.
So one of the things that she said was that priests that's like top 5 position for people who are narcissists.
Mm.
So I said, let me go look into that. So I go to Google. I'm doing all kind of Google searches. And sure enough, right in there with like positions like police officers, right there you got priests, top 5 narcissists.
Mm.
So I wanted to ask you, what do you think about that?
I can definitely see that. I think we see it in the tradition, especially when you get to a position where people are bowing to you, or what we call dobale to you. You are in a position of authority, quote unquote. I can definitely see how that can be the case, especially if you are a person that doesn't have any authority outside of the tradition. I can definitely see how that can play to someone's narcissism. I think for me personally, for us personally, I think we were very adamant about that not being the case for us. Not getting caught up in people dobaling to us and things like that. And I think that this is why I know that this is the reason why we also created this podcast, to let people know that we're just regular people who just happen to be priests, and we're just giving our perspective. We are no higher than anybody else. The stage is not raised when we are here. We are down here with the people talking about regular things that the people want to hear about. So yeah, but I could definitely see how that could play into someone's narcissism. What'd you think when you read the post?
So man, so the post was kind of crazy because I went to the comments, right? And in the comments, it's pretty much all women in the comments. And it's people are giving their personal horror stories. And I'm scrolling through and I'm like, I don't know. I felt a certain way at first. I was uh, kind of angry to a degree, not maybe, to a high level of anger, but I definitely felt something as I'm going through and I'm reading. And initially I didn't know if I had a problem with that. Man, she's really killing, the tradition. Like she's really going in, right?
Mhm.
And then as I'm reading the comments, I'm like, yo, it's a lot of people on here, a lot of women on here who is basically agreeing and sharing their own personal stories.
Right.
And I'm like, so should I have a more of a problem with the fact that she's kind of bringing this information to the forefront, or should I have an issue with the fact that this thing is going on? And like you said, man, that's one thing that I really uh, focus on. One thing that you really focus on is how we were received, and how we kind of carried ourselves after initiation. And for us, it was like you said, it was important for us to be seen as regular people. This just happened to be our calling, and this happened to be the path that we went down. And we talked about it here. When I think about my walk with the priesthood, I go to the story of Jesus and how Jesus was someone who was seen amongst the common people.
Right.
And that story always resonated with me. So, and again, I started thinking about it. I was like, when you start going back, because consciousness, and I would consider African spirituality to be kind of inside of that conscious movement, conscious community. It's starting to become cool now in the social media era, but
Right.
5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago, it wasn't cool. So I think a lot of people who kind of jumped on that bandwagon probably weren't seen as part of like the cool kids.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And I can see how now at this point you're in a position where you have information that other people don't have.
Right.
You're having information people haven't heard. Let's say you're a diviner and that you're able to do that and you're wowing people with that. I can see how, like you said, going from a position where you weren't known, you weren't popular, I can see how that type of thing can go to your head,
Mhm.
and it's going to result in poor character, you know. And I always said women like a gimmick, right? So it, you know, if you ain't handsome, if you ain't got a lot of money, boy, if you know some information, hey, or some other gimmick, whether you the local DJ, you in a fraternity, whatever the case may be, you find you a gimmick, you know what I'm saying, you will be all right. And I think for a lot of people, that became their ploy to get women, because there would be a lot of stories from women as I was reading the comments that had to do with, oh yeah, he said I had to sleep with him, or he kept propositioning me and this, that, and the other. And I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah. I can't even I can't even fathom myself doing something like that, man. Just, have a woman on my mat or over the phone or whatever, and me telling her that spirit has told me that you have to sleep with me. I just can't even fathom doing something like that. This kind of takes me back. I believe I talked to you once before about a book I read called The Lucifer Effect, and
Mm-hmm.
it was written by a social psychologist named Philip Zimbardo. He was the guy that did the Stanford prison experiment in the late '60s, and he talked about how correctional officers were able to separate themselves from themselves, which is why they wore the types of shades that they wore, where you definitely couldn't see their eyes. Some of them would cover their name badges. So inside of the walls, they could be an entirely different person
Mm.
than they are on the outside of those walls. So in some cases, that may be the case in our tradition also, where as Baba so and so or Owl so and so or Ianifa so and so, they are able to separate themselves out in the community at large, and they're able to do certain things. There's a sort of anonymity that exists inside of the culture, especially when people only know you by your Ifa name. and then out on the streets or out in the world where more people know you, they only know you by your birth name. There's a sort of anonymity there. There's a sort of separation there. So I can see how you could feel that you could get away with something like that. But yeah, man, I think that's something that we're gonna have to trailblaze to make sure that we never fall in those types of circles. But I don't. We are not in danger of falling into anything like that because we, from the very beginning, I think we understood that this is something humbling. That this is something that
Mm.
doesn't necessarily elevate us above anybody, that we're just regular people that just happen to come into some information following our path. Like you said, you have to choose your destiny twice, once in Orun or once in the spirit realm, and once here, once you figure out what it is that you're supposed to do. We just did that, and we haven't been elevated above anybody. So yeah, man.
Right, right. And all the stories in the comments were from women. Like there wasn't one man that said, "Yeah, man, uh, I gave this priest $200 for this spiritual work, and he just never did it." It was nothing like that. It was all in relationships to women. So
Right.
for all the IWOs out there, or whatever other tradition that you're a part of, right? If you are in a position where you're a pastor, deacon, priest of another spiritual system, no spiritual gorilla pimping and no spiritual dirty macking like that.
Right.
Mm-mm, we don't do that.
Right.
It's spiritual ramifications for that. So no spiritual gorilla pimping, no spiritual dirty macking. Don't be doing readings talking about your boyfriend doing this or your husband doing that so you could try to slide. Like none of that.
Right.
Don't be trying to strong arm say the spirit said.
Right.
You got to
Yeah.
rock with it. Your spirit said you got to marry a babalawo, and then you sitting over there like this, like nah, we ain't doing that.
Right. Yeah. Ashe. I agree. Ashe. So what we got? So what we got for the people this episode, man? What we talking about?
So another time, you know, again, I usually only be on Instagram and Facebook like that when I'm in the bathroom handling business. So I'm scrolling through on another occasion, and for I guess a period of like 2 weeks or so, maybe even longer than that, just going, I'll keep seeing it come up. I'm seeing this argument come up about like this 50-50 man versus the masculine man,
Mm,
right? It's this argument for people online, and it's men and women saying it, but basically they're talking about the 50-50 man. So the 50-50 man is the man that you live with, you're in a relationship with, and you're splitting all the bills and everything down the middle, right? And if you got kids, then that means for like the woman, not only are you going to work full time, but you're coming home, taking care of the kids, cooking, cleaning, doing all that other stuff, or the expectation is for you to do all that other stuff, and the man is paying half the bills. There's this masculine man argument where they're saying to be a masculine man, what that looks like is that you pay all the bills and a woman doesn't pay anything.
mm,
And a true measure of masculinity is your ability to hold down the fort financially and let your woman, I guess maybe take care of the household, take care of the children, and pursue whatever thing that she wants to pursue for herself. And that's that.
mm.
So it's starting to heat up. And the crazy part about it is like everybody is talking about it.
Right.
There is a guy that I follow, like he's a vegan herbalist or plant-based herbalist, and that's all I know him for. And then he's going crazy on the internet now talking about this 50-50 man versus the masculine man thing.
Mm,
To where I don't even think I've heard him talk about herbs or plant-based diet or health or anything like that in like 2 months.
mm.
So what's your thoughts on this 50-50 man versus masculine man argument?
I've seen it on the internet as well, and on the surface, I disagree with both of them. I disagree with at least the terms. I disagree with the terms and how they're defining it. Right, this 50-50 thing. Uh, I think that's a horrible name to give it because, like you say, it's not really 50-50 if both the man and the woman are splitting the financials, but the woman is also taking care of the children in the household. That's not really uh, 50-50.
All right.
And if we're going to define, or the rubric that we're going to use that defines or measures masculinity is a man's ability to pay for something, I think we're really missing the mark about what masculinity is. But for me personally, in an ideal world, it would be for me to make all of the money and for my wife to be the administrator over the house. In an ideal world, that's how I would have it. I would have my wife take care of our children, to take care of the household, all of those things, ideally, and she wouldn't have to work. She could do what she wanted to do in her spare time as long as uh, she raised the children. For me, that's the main focus. The main focus is for one of the parents. I say one of the parents just because I know different circumstances can lead to different things, but
Mm-hmm.
for me, ideally, optimally, it would be the woman, my woman, staying home and taking care of the children, taking care of the household, doing whatever she wants to do in her spare time, and me going out and earning the bread. And to me, that's more of a 50-50 thing. To me, that's um, masculinity, um, based on the definition that I think that our ancestors would have used, as far as being the leader of your household, being able to direct things in your household, being a disciplinarian to your kid, while your children, while at the same time being able to nurture them, nurture your wife, nurture yourself. All of those things I think go into being a masculine man. But like I say, ideally for me, that's how it would be. I think 50-50 is a horrible term or moniker to give it because it's not really 50-50 in that sense. The woman is doing more of the work because she's not only working full time outside of the house, she has to come back home and work full time at home. So, yeah, I disagree with that, at least on the surface, by the definition. And ideally, that's how I would have it to go. So, what about you? What have you seen? Has anything swayed what you thought prior to hearing any of the arguments about the 50-50 man or the masculine man?
So me and you and our thought process is pretty similar on that. This is how I look at it. A lot of times when we're looking at this, you know, 50-50 man versus masculine man thing, we're talking about the man and the woman having outdated roles.
Mm,
Like men in 2023 are not going out and cutting down trees
mhm.
and building homes from scratch.
Some of them are
You know, very, very few.
right.
Very, very few.
Yeah, I
Like,
chopped down some. I chopped down some trees in outside yard in the penitentiary.
that's hilarious. But then you ain't build no house with them trees.
Right,
You
exactly.
know what I'm
Somebody did
saying?
that.
Right. So we're not doing that. You
Right.
know, this isn't that time frame where we're having 5, 8, 10 plus children.
Mhm.
We're self-sustaining because we got a garden and a farm and we live close proximity to, you know, family, friends. We have like a real community. So when I go build my house, you know, my brothers, my cousins, my friends, you know, other men from the community, they come in to help me build my house. I go help them build their houses. You know, like I said, we're farming the land, we're eating the animals that we farm, and you know, all those type of things. And then the women are just in the house. Since slavery, though, the end of slavery, for the most part, black women have always worked.
Right.
So even when we're talking about traditional roles, I think we fail to realize that traditionally, since the end of slavery, we've had a 50-50 type of situation going on.
Mm.
Where men and women both worked outside the house and pulled their money together. And even with that, the economics were nowhere near what they are now.
Mm-hmm.
I think last time I checked, the average household income is like 60 grand a year. So, and that's with, two adults, excuse me, working outside the home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand how there's this expectation that realistically that in that type of scenario, you're going to have one person working and that one person is going to be able to provide. That person is going to be able to save. That person is going to be able to invest. That person is going to be able to pay for entertainment. That person is going to be able to pay for, at least one vacation a year. Like that's just unrealistic in 2023. So I think first and foremost, I think people have to be realistic as to their expectations, right? And we got to stop romanticizing back in the day,
Mm.
because the back of the day that a lot of and I think this is a conversation only in our community. I when I'm scrolling through social media, I don't see, white people interviewing white people talking about 50-50 man versus masculine man. I think that's just primarily in our community. And I think that's a new phenomenon. I think it's ego driven. I think
Mm.
it's one of those things where you have, more men, not a lot, because again, the average household income is 60,000, and when you look at average income for black people, black women, black males, because black males still, on average, make more than black women. You know, that's not realistic. But you have more black men making more money. And I think it's probably the ego of those groups trying to separate themselves from others and say, look at me, this is what I can provide.
Mm.
I think we're getting caught up on the social media thing.
We are.
And we see people in social media saying, I got all of this, and this is what it should be. So I think that's one of the things. I think lastly, though, we take it to the spiritual aspect of it. The spiritual aspect of it tells me is nobody is talking about destiny and purpose.
Mm.
What if my destiny was to be a school teacher? I would have to go 50-50 with my woman in order to be able to provide. Like, so I don't think we're taking consideration that. What if there's a woman whose destiny is to be some mogul? If she's looking for somebody that makes more money than her, then she's talking about a very, very, very small pool,
Right.
for one. And for two, that person, that man that she's going to meet is going to be looking for one of those quote unquote traditional women. And her purpose is to be this mogul. She's not going to stop working.
Mm.
So in order for her to find a mate, she's going to have to get somebody who is going to make far less money than her. So those are the things. That's the thing that I always think of is what about purpose?
Mm.
What if it's not my purpose just to be as a woman to just be at the house and care for the kids? Maybe I do that for a few years. Maybe we have 2 or 3 kids. I do that for, let's say, 10 years while the youngest one goes to school. And after that, it's purpose time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a lot of factors that we're not taking into consideration.
Now that last part you said, that's something that I can agree with because, like I say, my reasoning anyway, for uh, my woman staying home would be for the raising of the children.
Right.
That would be the main thing for me. So once the children are raised, or once the youngest child is old enough now to, I'm going to say, look after his or herself, then, like you say, it could be purpose time. She can go out and do whatever it is that she wants to do, or whatever it is her purpose or her destiny is. For me, ideally, that's the main thing. The main reason is the raising of the children, not so much the cleaning of the house or the cooking of the food. Those are good things too, but uh, mainly for the raising of the children. I don't think we do take the spiritual aspect into account. I don't think we take
Mm.
into account, like you were talking about, the differences in the times back then when we were still living on the continent, still living in villages. Things were just different then. Things were so different then, and like you say, I
Right.
know about the average household income being $60,000. Now I do know I don't think about when the income for a two-parent household is that low. I don't think about things like saving, investing, paying for entertainment, paying for vacations, and things like that. I think when the bring home income is that low, that you're kind of in survival mode right now. You're not worried about investing in saving or any of those things. So yeah, and you also have to consider earning potential. Like if the man doesn't have the earning potential needed to take care of a full household, then yes, you may be in a circumstance or in a position where the woman also has to work. Now, I think this is where we have to separate the ego from the man, where
Hmm.
if I'm working a full-time job and my wife is also working a full-time job, then that means that there's going to have to be a division of labor in the household also. For me, there's going to have to be a division of labor there too, because I don't want to you know, run her down. I
Right.
don't want
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't want to run her down or drive her into the ground or anything like that. So, yeah, I mean, like I say, ideally, that's how I would want it. That's not where I'm at right now. My wife works now. She works at home, but she still works full time. Still takes care of my daughter here full time. So I'm not in an ideal position as of yet, but I hope to be one day. My wife and I, we talk about that all the time, where she doesn't have to work. She just, you know, raise our little girl. And I talk about my little girl because my son is 16, getting ready to be 17. He basically takes care of himself. But yeah, that's what ideally I would like. Is what does your ideal situation look like?
Yeah, that's my ideal situation is where you know my children's mother doesn't work outside the home till the kids are of school age, and then at that time it just focus on your purpose.
Hmm.
You know, um, so like for me, for instance, I remember being in a space where I'm always chasing money. So I got a good job. I do real estate investing, and I was doing options. So I'm trading options, and I remember having this feeling where in the middle of working my plays for the next day, right? I know my trades, waiting for the opening bell. I'm probably in the Thinkorswim app, setting my plays for the next morning, when the market opens. And I remember looking over at my bookcase. My bookcase, you know, at that time I just had a few E5 books. And I remember thinking to myself, like, man, at some point, I'm gonna have to give this up to really focus on, my spiritual journey, really learn that. And the very next reading my monthly reading I got, it may have been a week later. And the first thing that was said is, I know that you're a money man, but you have to put that up and focus on your spirituality.
Mm.
So that's what I did. Cold turkey. I said, bet. Because I already had that feeling, I already had that thought, anyway. So I just did it cold turkey. Now, again, because of the move that I make, I can do all the providing and all that. I'm cool. But the whole concept, even if I was a billionaire, the concept of being with a woman who wouldn't work outside the home is probably not realistic. Not from a standpoint of you got to bring money into the house, but because you got a purpose,
Mm.
you know. And unless you're going to perform your purpose pro bono, you're going to charge for that. There's going to be some kind of money. Now, I'm not saying, oh, I need some of that money so, to pay bills with, but there's probably going to be a whether it's a part-time basis or whatever the case may be, there's going to be some kind of work that she would have to do.
Mm.
Again, it's not from the standpoint of make the money so you could pay bills, but you have a purpose. Your purpose is probably going to require you to do something. Like I said, whether that's be a priest, whether that's to be a healer, and whatever that looks like, but however way you decide to accomplish that, maybe you're an artist and you paint and do all those different things. Maybe you came here to be like a life coach. Whatever the case may be, there's something you have to do. I think it would be good for us as men in those situations is to make it to where after they've raised the children, if that's your agreement. I'm just going off if that's we're using this very traditional setting as the example.
Right.
After they raise the kids, you go perform your purpose without the stress of I gotta make money,
Mm.
and I gotta make money immediately,
Right.
because hey, you might have come here to be, the next Oprah Winfrey or the next Louise Hay or, you know, some orator who is known internationally for speaking at conferences and things of that nature. But you don't have to feel like, oh, I gotta do it just like this, or I gotta stress about how I'm gonna make money off of it.
Right.
I think that is how a relationship is successful. You relieve my stresses, I relieve your stresses.
Mm-hmm.
And ideally, our stresses are different.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because then how we all trying to do the same thing. So I think that's how it works perfectly. But I think this whole conversation about 50-50 men versus masculine men is ego driven.
Definitely, definitely, because you hear a lot now about uh, high value men, men asking women what they bring to the table. So I've seen a lot of conversations surrounding that. But let me ask you this: if
Mm-hmm.
in your ideal situation, once the woman has raised the children and now she's out doing whatever her purpose is, how does that change your role in the household, within the household? How does your role change?
I think my role is going to be dictated by the children. Number of boys versus number of girls, their interests, you know. If it's a child that got similar interests to me, oh, they with me all day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They with me all day. We rolling. We whatever we do, we read books, we having certain kind of conversation. They with me all day. You know what I'm saying? Especially now they old enough, they can go to the bathroom by themselves and all that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Hey, we good. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm about to go step out. You want to ride? Come on. You know what I'm saying? Because you know how to go to the bathroom by yourself and everything. Let's ride. But again, like I said, it really is going to depend on interest. It's going to depend upon, like I said, mix of boys to girls. It's going to depend on the personality of the child. It's going to depend on whatever the mom's purpose is. What does that look like? What does that require? Right? Does that require you to be out of the house? Can you do that in the house? Is it a mix? You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's fluid.
Right.
But I think the man is that traditional protector, provider, the one that provides the stability. Again, what does protector and provider look like? Well, that's going to change depending on the situation. You know what I'm saying? A protector is going to look different if you in a neighborhood full of Bloods and Crips versus you live in the suburbs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I ain't got it where I live, where you live. We ain't got to do too much protecting.
Hopefully.
Like, yeah,
Hopefully.
like it ain't nothing going on. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We just got to do the provide, but ain't no protecting going on in these neighborhoods.
Right.
But yeah, but if you know what I'm saying, if you in a different type of neighborhood, that's gonna look different.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it differs between that. What about you?
Um, I definitely agree with what you said. I was kind of leaning more toward the domestic things, like I
Oh,
and I hope that word doesn't offend anybody. I just
hmm,
you know you know what I mean. Uh,
yeah.
I'm leaning more toward things like outside of the kids, like the cooking, the cleaning, the things that have to do with the upkeep of the house. So
Oh,
when
I
the
ain't doing no
woman,
cooking.
right, no cooking, right, we
Off top,
agree.
I ain't doing no cooking.
Right. Me and my wife, we got that understood. That the only things I can cook is if it got to go in the microwave. That's it. If
Hmm.
or oh, I'm a beast at a ramen noodle though, but that's some prison stuff though. So, but I'm talking about no, I can't cook at all. So what about the things like the rest of the upkeep of the house, like the cleaning, the washing the clothes, washing the dishes, things like that. How does your role change pertaining to those things if the woman, after she's raised the children to school age, and now her purpose has her outside of the house?
It ain't gonna change at that point. I'm gonna have to hire somebody to come in and do some cleaning.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, cause
right.
yeah, the domestic thing really don't match my outfit. That's not my calling.
I feel you.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I would struggle at that
Right.
for
Yeah.
sure. I would, yeah. So at that point, yeah, then we'll have. Thank God we in Texas. You know what I'm saying? I can get somebody for the low. You know what I'm saying, to come in and handle things. But yeah, nah, yeah. As far as that's concerned, that ain't changing.
Yeah. So I help. I help. I'm sure not as much as my wife would like. It's just I'm just wired so differently. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just not. I don't think about those types of things. Like my wife will put clothes in the washing machine and then have to leave, and I could be here all day, and when she get here, the clothes still in the washing machine because
Right.
because I'm not thinking about those things. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not wired like that. So, but I would hope in a situation like that I could help more around the house. Like I say, I do certain things. I'll clean up. I'll put the clothes in the washing machine, in the dryer, those type of things. But I also think that because I got a 16-year-old here, that I shouldn't have to do anything. I
That part.
Right. I feel like God did the same thing. I'm only following the footsteps of God. God had a
Hmm.
garden, and God say, I got this garden. I really don't want to mess with this. So I'm gonna make somebody.
Hmm.
I'm gonna make
Yeah.
somebody to come and till this garden. So God
Right.
had children. He had he had Adam and Eve according to the Bible. He's like, hey, y'all till this garden. So, when I have children, that's what you do. You help with the upkeep of the house. You take out the trash, you wash the dishes. This is your contribution to the household. So yeah, that's how I feel, especially with boys. Especially with boys, I feel like you gotta have some type of structure with
Absolutely.
with boys. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I feel like I
Mm,
should do anything but go outside and work.
yeah. But see, the thing about it is we don't just work a job and then that's it. I mean, we're priests, we got responsibilities for that. We do podcasts, we do readings, you know. So yeah, we got a lot of other stuff going on. So if I was doing that type of stuff too, like nah, that would be crazy.
Yeah, too much.
Yeah, way too much.
Yeah.
You know,
Still
yeah.
trying to read, still got to get your read on and all those things. But like you say, I agree with you that the conversation is ego driven, and now you have more and more men buying into this thing like I have to make enough money to take care of a woman, take care of children, take care of a household, and I have to have enough money so that she can uh, stay home. That's the masculine way to go. Not understanding that everybody's circumstance is not the same.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Now
everybody.
I'm gonna say this though. I'm not against, you know, if the conversation was held outside of a place of ego, right?
Hmm.
And it was creating a space where men were like, "Oh yeah, I got to get to it um, legally, right?
Right.
Finding better ways to get money, you know, trying to improve themselves, their skill set, their education, whatever have you, to to better sustain themselves and their family financially." I'm cool with that. If
Hmm.
that was the thing, like I said, the ego part of it, and here's the thing too, when it comes to the whole ego thing. When you think of, let's say, an alpha male when it comes to a lion, what do you think of?
The one that's doing all the protecting and chilling rest of the time.
But okay, but what makes it able to do all the protecting?
um, Everything else is taken care of for him.
Okay, but I'm saying like when if you had to describe an alpha male lion, what it looks like, sounds like, whatever the case may be, how would you describe an alpha male lion?
The biggest and the strongest.
Right. It's some people out there who yelling about this masculine man thing and they little. Like they itty bitty.
Right.
They like runts. I mean, short and little. So that's when I started really paying attention to not who was just having the conversation, right? Because I think a lot of people are having the conversation because it's a topic of conversation. It's a way to drive views to your page,
Right.
especially if you're super 50-50, I mean, super masculine man, you know, spoil your woman, that type of thing. Oh, you're going to get all kind of views. The women going to, you know, like your stuff, all that. But I started paying attention to these people who was really going hard on the whole masculine male thing. And I remember seeing one video, and I'm not gonna say what his name was, but he was really going in on this masculine male thing. And then he went up to his woman, and I was like, she looks like, not saying like she's unattractive, but in stature, she looks like the masculine male, and you look like the woman. Like
Mm,
she way bigger than you. And I was thinking to myself, like, now I see why you going so hard for this.
mm,
It's like a overcompensating for your physical stature.
right.
That's when you start losing me with the message.
Mm,
Because you can have a message that's completely on point. But when I know that it's not coming completely, or I feel like it's not coming from a completely genuine place, and you doing it because you're trying to overcompensate for something, then that's when you kind of lose me with that.
right.
And he was going way too hard for. I mean, I'm talking about he going way too hard. You know what I'm saying? So I got a laugh out of that when I seen him walk up to his woman. I mean, it was like he was here and his woman was like here. And I guarantee you his woman ain't 6 feet tall.
Right. Oh yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
willing to bet that. So he
Yeah.
probably 5'5", talking
Right.
about he a masculine male. And I'll be like, in the animal kingdom, that looks a certain way.
Right.
You know, like and gorillas not learning karate. So the alpha male is just like you said, the biggest and strongest. You can't be a little gorilla, and you just learn karate and you got a good technique. You gonna be on alpha. That ain't how that works. This ain't, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like Mayweather is little, but it's probably some 200-pound men on the street that he'll beat up because he's a trained fighter. That ain't how it
right,
work in the animal kingdom.
right. You either
If you
got it or
two
you don't.
Right. If you a big ass deer and you fight a little deer, the big deer gonna win.
Right.
This is what it is.
Yeah, this whole thing makes me think about my entire relationship that I had with my wife, because that was a time in our relationship where she made more money than me. And we had, because we talked about that from the beginning, like how we wanted the relationship to go, like if we ever had children, how we wanted the relationship to go, like the things that we would like to be able to do as a couple with children and things like that. So that was the time where she made more money than me. And this
Mm-hmm.
had to be around the time when you remember the Chris Rock comedy special called Tambourine?
Mm-mm.
He did a comedy special called Tambourine, and basically the whole thing was about uh, the couple being a band, and sometimes the man plays the tambourine, and sometimes the woman plays the tambourine in the background. You playing it in the background.
Yeah. I remember that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So whoever's making the least amount of money is in the background playing the tambourine. So that was our little inside joke where once she started making more money than me, that now I was in the background playing the tambourine. All in jest though,
Right.
we knew what we wanted to do. We know what our
Mm-hmm.
goal is. We still moving toward the goal of, her being able to stay home full time, raise our daughter, and do the other things that she want to do without the need of having to stress about making money to complement the money that I'm making. So yeah, man, this conversation, I've gotten to the point now where I skip it. When I'm scrolling through TikTok or IG, once I get to something and they're talking about traditional roles or this 50-50 thing and what men are supposed to do, what women are supposed to do, I scroll past it because, like you say, most of it is ego driven. And even some of the women, I get tired of hearing and listening to some of the women also because, when a man can ask what I would think would be good good questions. Like, if I'm going to provide everything for you, basically I'm going to take care of you, what are you bringing to the table? What is it that you're going to help me do? Is it something that you're going to do to help push me forward? Is it some type of stress that you're going to take off of me? What is it that you're going to bring to the table? And a lot of these women are just saying, I am the table, I'm bringing me to the table, those type of things, and they don't have anything to uh, like this rap song I listen to say the only thing they bring to the table is appetite. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we both as men and as women, especially once we get into these relationships, the man and the woman needs to have a talk and figure out, ideally before the relationship, figuring out what it is that we want to do, what our goals are, how we see the dynamics in relationship, what the man is supposed to do, what the woman is supposed to do. How do these things change? How do the dynamics change when circumstances change? Those types of things, those types of conversations need to be had before we put this stamp on uh, I'm your man, you're my woman. Let's get married, let's have children. Those are the types of conversations that need to be had.
Right. Problem with that though is in order to have that conversation, you got to know who you are,
Right.
and then the other person has to know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm talking about from a deep spiritual level. I'm not talking about, I'm a Cancer, so I like this. I'm a Scorpio, so I like that. No, like you got to really know yourself on a deep
Mm-hmm.
level and understand your strengths and your weaknesses. Be
Mm-hmm.
humble enough to be able to admit that. Be humble enough to admit where you need assistance. And then find somebody who fits. And for some women, the man that fits for you is the 50-50 man. For
Mm-hmm.
some women, you need a quote unquote masculine man,
Right.
And again, if once you've done the work, if that's what you need, then that's what you need. It is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we got to live our lives according to understanding where we are. The Odu Otormedi says that it's through self-discovery and being in alignment with your purpose that you'll be able to attract the things, the people, the places, the opportunities that are in alignment. So with your purpose. So that's what y'all need to do, man. I think we knocked this one out the park.
Oh yeah. This made me think about meditation and how hard you go on meditation. Um, and it always takes me back to like I would have conversations with my wife about me knowing who I am, and because of the time that I had to spend alone,
Right,
because of the time I spent alone, that facilitated me getting to know myself. And a lot of people who've been free, uh, not behind the walls, their whole lives, many of them have never been alone. They've never had to spend time alone with themselves, which is why meditation is so important. A
right,
time where you can just sit and be alone, be with yourself, understand who you are, like you say, your strengths, your weaknesses, where you need assistance, those types of things. But we have to be able to spend time alone with our own thoughts, with our own spirit, with our own shadows, those types of things for us to really understand who we are, what we desire, the things that we're willing to compromise with, the things that we're not willing to compromise with, those types of things. So I definitely agree with you. This was a an amazing episode. This is what we're talking about when we say we talk about the issues of the time from the perspective of two people who just happen to be priests. We're still talking about the things that people are talking about on TikTok and IG, but from a position of priest and from the position of talking about destiny, what we are here to do individually and what that looks like when we are in relationships with other people. Yeah.
Ashe,
Yeah.
Ashe. So we'll end it there. Hey, family, please smash that like button. And if you're not subscribe, subscribe, share it. Your grandmama and them want to, listen to it. Your
Right.
uncle, your cousin, them. Show us some love. But again, we appreciate y'all for checking us out. So please continue to come back. Please continue to show love. Hey, comment. You pro 50-50 or you pro masculine man. Let us know.
Let us know.
Fellas, ladies, what you need? You cool with 50-50 or nah, you need the masculine man to pay all the bills? Let us know. Let us know. Let's have a conversation in the comments.
Right.
But we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We'll see y'all next week with another episode. Until next time, life is for the living. Live life out loud and on purpose. See y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.